Just lowercase.
That's
and
We know
Matt.
it's supposed to be. Are you on, Bill?
Ask is supposed to be like Captain Kirk.
All right, sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, so let's go ahead and begin the regularly scheduled Planning Commission for October 11, 2018. We're going to call it to order, and if you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. As we begin today, it's a little bit rainy outside, but we suffering nothing like the folks up in the Panhandle. Let's keep everybody in our prayers and keep our thoughts with them. So, all right. First thing, Ms. Tusing, where are you? Oh, there you are. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, there are changes to the agenda. Item number 5 is PDMU 1809 ZG Covered Bridge Holdings, LLC 3 LLC at State Road 70 Commercial Subdivision. Actually, it is going to be continued until November 8th and re-advertised. We will discuss that, under its normal item. That was done this morning. Item number 6 is PDR 1203GR Row Ventures LLC, the aviary at Rutland Ranch. There's an additional specific approval request, which is for a second means of access for emergency access road. Excuse me. And item number 7 is Plan Amendment 1811, Ordinance 1839. There was a revised school section and is included in the strike-through and underlined format. That's the conclusion to the changes to the agenda.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clegg, any changes from the County Attorney's Office?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on to item number 1. Item number 1 is the minutes from September 13, 2018 Planning Commission. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review, and are there any revisions or edits?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Mr. Rhodes.
I'll make a motion to approve September 13, 2018 minutes for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Mr. DeLesline, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, the chair is going to call the motion to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to citizen comments. This is anybody who wishes to make a comment on an item that is not on today's agenda. If you wish to make a comment on today's agenda, an item on today's agenda, you'll have an opportunity when that item's heard. So is there anybody who wishes to come forward and make comments on anything that is not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion and move on to the published agenda. So we're going to go ahead and swear everybody in. So if you do plan on speaking on anything today, if you would please rise to be sworn in. If you don't do it now, you'll have to do it in the middle of the hearing.
Swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which are about to present to the Planning Commission will be truthful and accurate. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So the first item is Indigo, item number 3, Indigo subdivision, and we're continuing that. Do we, Mr. Clegg, do we need to open that one up for
Yes.
public hearing? Okay. So Ms. Tusing, could you please introduce that, or whoever is introducing that, please enter it into the record?
Yes, it's PDR 1808 ZP, which is related to PDR 1515 ZP. It's the Indigo subdivision. It is quasi-judicial, and it is going to be continued to November 8th at a time certain at 9:00 a.m. I think you need to open it to see if there's anybody from the public present.
Correct.
Okay.
Just need to take public comment and then a motion and a vote to continue.
Very good, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or statement regarding application, item number 3, the Indigo subdivision? Anyone at all? Again, it will be heard at a later date. If you wish to make a comment, then you'll have the opportunity then also. So seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion for this application, and Chair will entertain a motion to continue.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeLesling.
I move to continue this on November 8th, 2018.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Rhodes, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4. This is a presentation upon request. It's an abbreviated hearing. Generally speaking, the application has been found consistent by staff, so we're going to introduce the item, and we'll hear public comment, and then we'll determine if there's any specific items that need to be discussed or deliberated. So, Ms. Tucson, can you please read item number 4 into the record?
Yes, sir. Item number 4 is PDC 1807P, Wendy's Store 11897. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Rosina Leiter is the planner, and she will give the introduction and brief summary of the case.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Rosina Leiter by the staff, and it has been sworn. The request is to approve a preliminary site plan for more or less 2,400 square feet of restaurant with drive-through, and the site is located in the north side of State Road 70 and comprises 3 parcels. It's already zoned PDC, and the applicant is asking a specific approval for an alternative for one of the requirements of Section 531 that require a fence along 2 areas that are adjacent to residential. Staff revised the case, and we don't have concerns, and we received letter of support for all the adjacent properties around the site. If you have any particular questions, I'm willing to answer, and here's the applicant to answer any particular question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and go to the public comment portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to come forward and speak on this application? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion and go to the commissioners. Commissioners, is there anything in this application that requires additional discussion or deliberation? No. Mr. Roth.
The exit from the street that has the post office on it to State Route 70 has a traffic light, and I'm guessing that the drive out from the Wendy's will be parallel or directly north of that?
Yes, that is correct. The FDOT requested that the alignment of the entrance with the existing 79th Street East intersection.
Okay, so that people, I don't know if that's the exit on the drive or the entrance, but assuming it's the exit, it's going to exit at the traffic light.
Yes.
So if the traffic light stops the traffic, how far back will that lane go around the Wendy's? And will that create a traffic problem?
The applicant is here to answer any particular questions.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Caleb Grimes, and I have been sworn here representing the applicant. Actually, what has happened is that the Wendy's site has worked with the neighbors, and there were several easements that went back into all the properties there, and it's all being realigned so that there is an actual roadway that goes back and is parallel to the west side of the Wendy's. So the Wendy's access is onto that roadway, not onto State Road 70. And so we were able to take a very difficult, poor situation out there with several easements. The easement this site came out before the light into where people would be stacking for the light, and we fixed it. And so if you look at the site plan, it is designed that there's an entrance with a long way to go over to the far side of the Wendy's, and then when you exit, you go right out. So all of that was taken into account. And we've worked with your staff here on the design.
Mr. Grimes, to Mr. Roth's question, I'm looking at the site plan, and it appears that the exit from the actual restaurant parking lot is toward the back, toward the north?
The exit is the northerly one. So when you come out, then you have all of this and then 2 lanes to get onto State Road 7.
Have you estimated the stacking distance? How many vehicles could be stacked in that, just in a single?
I haven't. I'm sure we have someone here that could answer that, but they design Wendy's all the time.
Very good.
And you know what your stacking has to be, and so you design it where it will work. If you look at this particular one, with being able to get all the way around to the lanes on the backside, and then with people leaving, you're not waiting to go. You just go out and get in your line and turn when the light changes. So it's all been planned for that.
Mr. Rutledge.
I mean, my experience with banking and fast food is a typical stacking, depending on the community, is anywhere from 5 to 6 stack. And if you look at the count on the side of the building and then look at the stacking there, I would guess that you're probably 5 or 6 stacked out there. And I agree that the timeline is substantially different, picking up my favorite burger.
And one additional follow-up question. This is connected to a state road. Access management for this project is being coordinated with the DOT, is that correct?
FDOT. We worked with FDOT, and of course, they're real happy that we're fixing this intersection.
So with regard to that, anything that relates to putting traffic on the state road, the DOT, even though it is off the
FDOT has our site plan. They reviewed it, and they will permit it, and they will assure that it works.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions,
Thank
comments,
you.
concerns?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, comments, or concerns, does staff have anything else?
No, not at this time.
The applicant, anything further? They indicate they're good to go. All right, the chair will entertain a motion on this application. Anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeLesline.
based upon staff report, evidence presented, and comments made at the public hearing and findings, the request to be consistent with Manatee County Comprehensive Plan and Manatee County Land Development Code. As conditioned herein, I recommend approval of the preliminary site plan with stipulations A1 through A6, B1 through B1, C1, and C2, D1 through D4, adoption of findings of specific approval, and granting specific approval of an alternative to the Land Development Code Section 53.1.16B, allow enhanced planning area in lieu of required fencing for a drive-through facility adjacent to a residential as recommended by staff.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. DeLesline. Is there a second by Mr. Roth? Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, the chair is going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5. Item number 5 is Covered Bridge Holdings 3. This is the item that has been continued. So, Ms. Tucson, could you please read this item into the record?
Yes, sir, I need to do a little bit of correction on item number 3. The motion should have said continued to November 8th, 2018 at 9 o'clock time certain. So would we just do another motion for that?
Who made the motion? Mr. DeLesline made the motion. Who seconded?
I did.
Mr. Rhodes. So we're going to open item number 3 back up, and we're going to amend the motion. And you're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rhodes, are you okay with
Yes, I
the
am.
second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. The chair is going to call the matter to vote again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0, time certain, 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir,
Very
thank
good,
you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is PDMU 1809ZG, Covered Bridge Holdings 3 LLC, State Road 70, Commercial Subdivision. It is a quasi-judicial hearing. Dorothy Rainey is the planner, but the applicant, we have decided this morning to continue the hearing until November 8th and to re-advertise.
Very good, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. Is that correct, Mr. Clegg?
Yes, please do.
Okay, very good. So this application, which will be continued, will be open for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment regarding application number 5? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of this hearing and consider a motion to continue. Anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dillazine.
I motion to continue this project.
This application?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
To November 8th.
To November 8th.
Is that a time certain or just as advertised? Or
Mr. Chair, they're going to have to re-advertise it, so it's not so critical that you continue to a date and time certain like
Okay.
it was on the last one. I'm the one that
very good.
caused that to get called back, but, so you can just continue it because they're going to re-advertise.
Okay, so we'll just continue it.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Motion to continue. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rhodes. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, the chair's going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0 for continuance. All right, we're going to go to item number 6, Rose Ventures LLC. Ms. Tusing, can you please read item number 6 into the record?
Yes, item number 6 is PDR 12-03GR Row Ventures LLC, the aviary at Rutland Ranch. It is a quasi-judicial hearing. I am the case planner for this, and so I will give a brief summary of what is proposed, and the applicant's representatives are also here. This is a general location map that shows that the aviary is located north of County Road 675. This was approved back in 2012 for 784 single-family detached, single-family attached, and single-family semi-detached units on 400 acres. The changes that are proposed for today's hearing are to reduce the single-family detached lot sizes from 7,000, ranging from 7,000 to 10,000 square feet, to range from 4,000 to 8,000 square feet. It's also to reduce the single-family lot widths from between 60 and 80 feet to 40 and 7. That's in a companion with the lot size reduction. And also to reduce the single-family detached side yard setbacks from between 6 to 8 feet to 5 feet. Also to reduce the single-family semi-detached side yards from 0 feet to 8 feet. One side 0 feet, the second side 8 feet, to 0 feet on one side and 5 feet on the other. And then the original project had sidewalks on both sides of the internal roadways. They are not within 2 miles of a school. There is an attachment that shows the distances to schools in there, so they're only required to be on one side of the internal streets. There are 2 specific approvals that are being requested, and that is to the north central overlay rear yard from 15 feet to 5 feet, and that is for pool cages and et cetera. Also to allow emergency access as a second means of access between parcels 4 and 5. Staff does recommend approval with the stipulations as shown in the staff report.
Thank you. When you say staff recommends approval, that includes emergency service has reviewed the emergency access?
Yes, it was part of our review process.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Again, this is a presentation upon request. We're going to open the application for public hearing and hear if there's any concerns regarding this. So if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment or statement regarding this application, please come forward. Okay. Anyone at all? All right. Seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and go to the commission. Is there anything of concern regarding this application? Mr. Rutledge.
I just had 2 questions. There was exceptions made for the perennial stream and the floodplain. So my question was, in reviewing this, is it reviewed to the current standard, or is it grandfathered in to the standard they had developed originally?
That was a question I had. Are these changes a result of our current or our recent action regarding revisions to the LDC?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's independent of what was previously, what was recently
So
incorporated.
the following question might be, how much differential would there have been if it were to meet the current standards?
Maybe the applicant can provide some opinion on that.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Layton. I'm an AICP planner with ZNS Engineering, and I have been sworn.
Good morning.
So when we submit a modified general development plan like this, it's reviewed for everything in the current code. So anything that, Tom did a great job reviewing the whole application. We had no new concerns. We have the same number of dwelling units in this proposal as we did previously. Really, we started this whole process as kind of a cleanup effort and partly to just ask for reduced side yards so that we could increase open space and have smaller lot sizes in the project, consistent with what we're seeing development projects do right now. And it does meet the current land development code and the previous approval. So it was reviewed for everything that's current today, because we had that code change in 2016. That's what your staff reviewed the application for, is the current code.
Okay, thank you.
So
Mr. Gerstenberger.
I can't wait.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners. For the record, Thomas Gerstenberger, Public Works Department. I've been sworn. Commissioner Rutledge, with respect to your questions regarding the prior zoning approval, the special approval requests with respect to perennial stream and 25-year floodplain were included in the prior zoning approval, so those are carried forward in the staff report for this amended general development plan.
So I'm a little, not the brightest bulb on the light switch here. So my question kind of still goes back to, so you've modified your size of your lots for design criteria because you're not adding density. So arguably you're going to have more green space. So arguably there'd be some logic to thinking that the water conditions are improved by having more green space and less asphalt. Is that simple logic?
I would agree.
You agree?
Yes.
Would you?
We've also had an opportunity to preserve some more of the wetlands, too, as we've redesigned the project. So,
Right.
yes. I mean, we have approval for a preliminary site plan. We have an approval for a phase one of the final site plan. So this is really just truly a cleanup effort to try and a request for reduced side yard setbacks and all the items that Margaret listed earlier today.
And it does make the product more targeted for the market as it is today, right? Sizing
Correct.
and pricing and all
Correct.
those things are adjusted.
A lot of
for that.
some of the requests were to address market conditions.
Okay. Do you concur?
Commissioner Rutledge, yes, I do concur with the applicant.
So it's better. It's better.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Layton, before you step away, so you said there was an existing approved FSP?
Yes, there
And
is.
so the intent is to possibly change product type. You don't have the obligation, but you have the right now to reduce the side yards, correct?
Once this application is approved, then we'll have the right to reduce the side yard setbacks on the final site plan, yes.
Thank you. All right, any additional questions for the applicant? Anything for staff? Okay. If there's no further discussion, inquiry, or deliberation, we'll call the matter or we'll call a motion. Recall that there is it's not an updated motion, but it's a revision that was handed out earlier. So, again, the chair will consider a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion based on staff report, evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and finding the request to be consistent with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan and the Manatee County Land Development Code as conditioned herein. I move to recommend adoption of the Manatee County Zoning Ordinance, PDR 12-03GR, with stipulations amending and restating Ordinance PDR 12-03ZG, restating special approval previously granted for a project. Number one, adjacent to a perennial stream. Number two, gross density greater than one dwelling unit per acre in a UF3 future land use category. And three, within the 25-year floodplain. Adoption of the finding the specific approval and granting specific approval for an alternatives to Land Development Code sections 403.12.d.3k, reduced rear yard setback in the North Central Overlay District for pools, pool cages, and accessory structures, and 1001.1.c.3, allowing emergency access as second means of access. All is recommended by staff.
Thank you. We have a motion, and for the record, I stated that there was not a revised motion. That is incorrect. There is a revised motion, and Mr. Rhodes just read it, so for clarification. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Roth, second. Is there any discussion or deliberation on this application? Seeing none, the chair will call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. The next item we have is item number 7, All Pro One LLC. On this application, I have to recuse myself. Somebody in my company worked on this, so I'm going to turn the gavel over to Mr. Rhodes, and I'm going to step off the dais. Thank you.
We have enough to vote?
We've got 4.
Or is it enough?
That's why I came.
That's why you
We do have quorum.
Yes, we can proceed, and we do have 4
Proceedings.
quorum.
Planning Commission, the majority of the Planning Commission is quorum.
Correct. Thank you. Ms. Duzan, would you please read in item number 7 for the record?
Commissioner Rhodes, I will. Thank you. Item number 7 is Plan Amendment 1811, Ordinance 1839, Alprop 1 LLC, Florida International Trade Port, formerly known as the Ellington Commerce Park. It is a legislative matter, and Jamie Schindewolf is the planner for this case, and she'll give a brief summary.
Thank you.
Maybe? Okay. Good morning. I'm Jamie Schindewolf. I'm a planner with Manatee County, and I have been sworn. The applicant is requesting a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment from the existing future land use categories of residential 3 dwelling units per acre on approximately 40 acres and retail office residential on approximately 10 acres to mixed use for a total impacted area of approximately 50 acres. The proposed amendment sites are part of an overall 187-acre parent tract that received a general development plan approval on October 6, 2017. The entire site is now zoned PDMU, including these 2 parcels that are requesting a map amendment. This comprehensive plan amendment would help bring the zoning in line with the future land use designation. The current future land use designations of Res 3 and ROR were selected with the adoption of the 1989 comprehensive plan. This request qualifies as a rapid response project due to its economic impact and growth of a value-added company. This application was filed on August 2nd, 2018. Moving forward, the board should be aware that staff has received citizen comments expressing some concern about the possibility of the extension of the warehouse uses near 29th Street East. Ultimately, staff does recommend approval of this comprehensive plan amendment.
Thank you.
May I just ask a question? What is a value-added company? Should I Google it?
That is what our Economic Development Department says is eligible for a rapid response. We don't define that.
Nice.
We don't, as planners, we don't define it, so we are just using the terminology that they have said.
Any guesses? Somebody good economically for the county, so they want to get
Mr. Chair,
them in?
excuse me, I'm sorry. Any economic development project where a potential company locating in the county is seeking economic development incentives is governed by some confidentiality rules. So we're not in a position to say who it might be. The Planning Commission should be making judgments about this based on the comprehensive plan and code and whether or not the proposed uses or range of uses that would be allowed, regardless of who it might be that would locate there, is or is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. But in terms of getting into who might locate there, that's not something we can talk about in this hearing. There is a very strict statutory requirement that prohibits us from doing that.
Nice. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I do want to go ahead and clarify that the applicant is here as well if you do have questions for the applicant.
I saw him here. I'm just curious. So this is a special condition in response to somebody that somebody else likes, but we don't know who it is, but we think it's a good idea to do it. Anyway, I'm being kind of silly because
so essentially I note that because I wanted to be clear as to how this arrived before you so quickly.
Okay.
The application came in, economic development said, hey, this is a rapid response project, so there was a 2-week turnaround instead of a 3-week turnaround. Whereas some projects we have, take months and months and months, this came through more quickly.
But that doesn't mean you should view it any differently than you would any other decision that you make under the comprehensive plan. And I don't think she's advocated for it. She's just explaining why it's come to you under this rather pressing
I just think
schedule.
it's helpful for me to be a little smarter, but it's a big task.
And what will the use be? The use?
So this amendment doesn't have a plan actually attached to it yet. There is a general development plan that has been submitted that will come before you in a couple months, to be more specific. So as a mixed-use project, it can be a wide range of uses. And I think if you would like to ask the applicant if they want to reveal what they're thinking of doing, that would be acceptable.
Mr. Chair. Yes. Can I ask one other question? Is this designed or schemed at least to be fully integrated with the existing program that's already there? I mean, this is obviously a design and some configurations, which I'm pretty familiar with, which I find well done. I just want to make sure this is going to be complementary to that. It's kind of the expectation.
I think that's also a question for the applicant.
I agree with that, Mr. Chair. I think that's a question that should be directed at the applicant, not the county staff, because she can't speculate as to what they intend to do with the property. That's only they can.
My bad, sorry.
We're just trying to get at the truth.
All right, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any ex parte communications to state other than our chairman? Okay. And I'm assuming that even though this is presentation by request, I'm assuming commissioners would like.
I just had a couple of questions. I don't have to have a full presentation. Just a couple of thoughts came.
So we'll have okay. Would the applicant then please come up and give, or at least answer some of our concerns?
Thanks, Commissioners. My name is Todd Mathis, representing Benderson Development, for the record. So I understand this is sort of an unusual presentation because we have a comp plan amendment recommendation that we're requesting from you that we would take to the board. We're going to be back in front of you, hopefully, if we're successful with a general development plan to lay out more details. Just to back up in terms of staff's presentation, there are 2 parcels here which we're proposing to change the future land use from ROR and Res 3 to mixed use consistent with the remainder of the acreage of our property. But interestingly, the underlying zoning actually is not going to change with any of these plans, but we are going to bring that general development plan forward. So really, how this application came to be, and it's quick, right? We were here a year ago. I've been here with another project like this, and it's because we've had tremendous success and we've had a tremendous response from the market to a specific user in space, and that's the reason for the rapid response. So we're doing everything we can, and Manatee County staff is as well. And I'll say, John Barnett said to me, "Hey Todd, next time why don't you bring in the whole vision with a project like this, because we like to see it." And so this is really wrapping that up. The first time we got going, we had users. We've got users again, but this mixed use comp plan amendment will give you the full picture of what's planned here and more specifics in the general development plan, the road alignment, the acreage tracts, the uses, and so it'll all sort of come together. We've had an opportunity to meet with our neighbors to the north and who are working on residential development and to coordinate a lot of that work already. I know my neighbor to the west is here with some concerns and interest, and we're going to meet with him to go over it. And so we're hopeful we can take this first step, knowing we're going to be back in front of you with more details for the project, to just make that future land use consistent with the remainder of the project and not to change the zoning, but to bring a general development plan that you can kind of dig into some more details on, if that answers your questions.
I appreciate that.
So,
go ahead.
So basically what I hear you telling me is the future land use of these 2 parcels will be similar to the current land use, which abuts it on the east side, and on the other side of that, is 75. That's basically where you have warehousing.
That's right, sir.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Mr. Rutledge, any?
No, that's
Question? Okay.
that's kind of what I wanted to hear. Maybe I'm fishing further than I should be in that pond, but I think the project's very interesting. I know a little about it, but this is interesting. I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mathers. Does staff have any further presentation here?
No, I'll just put this up really quickly if you want to see the existing future land use situation.
Okay, please do.
Maybe.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah. So you can see the mixed use there adjacent to the parcels they're proposing to amend.
That looks familiar, right. Okay, thank you. I'll open this up for public comment. If anyone has, yes, please come forward. I've got two people that are scheduled to speak, and when you come forward, if you would say whether you've been sworn or not, please.
But that's actually not necessary. This is a legislative matter, so they don't have to.
Oh, so they don't have to be sworn?
They do not.
Okay. Just plain and safe.
Hi, Commissioners. How are you? I'm
Good morning.
I'm Marshall Gabati. Getting my voice right now. I'm the developer of Mirabella in Northwest Bradenton, and we also have a project which we came before you for Hunters Point in Cortez. Things are going great, by the way. Just as a quick note on that, we've now been off the grid for 48 straight hours, and with full power on. And there is like, with even yesterday's interesting clouds, we still had the battery ramp up to 62%. So things are going great from that perspective. I come to you today unprepared, but it's very important that I explain to you where and why this is very detrimental to our project. We've submitted a project called Our Lives, which is a 55-plus, consistent with our co-living, people moving from all over the state, all over the country to Florida, but not to buy our homes, our new performance homes that we're presenting at Hunters Point, but as a rental community at this exact location, adjacent to the Benderson's development. Our model on this is it's a rental community, and all the rental price points are just by chance in the affordable range. It's not affordable housing, but it's in the affordable range. Our challenge and our goal is, and working with the economic development team here, Jerry, we know that there's a demand for rentals. In the area, there's an apartment building a mile away, built in the 70s. There's an 8-month waiting list to get on, and we know there's a demand for this. More importantly, a sustainable community, we're going to do the same concept of energy, complete sustainability, ability to be off the grid in a home that we think that you don't have to be rich to deserve it, which is what we talked about originally when we first came to talk to you. However, we submitted this on 7/11. We've gone through different appointments with staff, and so far we don't see any major objections happening, and we're very excited about this. We have a patent on our multifamily program, so it's very exciting. So last week I received a notice, and I went, what? And I was looking at it, and I'm thinking, I looked at the company name, and I Googled it, and I went, that's not good. Because as you can see, at the very... So
there you go.
We have between 170 to 220 units of pure residential, because our property, 160 acres, is residential. That parcel of approximately 50 acres the comp plan is residential. And believe me, I love the idea of these warehouses that Benderson's doing. It's needed, it's fantastic, they're great close to the highway. However, I bought this land with the concept that those acres were residential. I've seen the plan that they've submitted, and if you're anywhere near, and you see that big bubble there, that's a lot of units. It's between 170 and 220 units. You're coming to move to Florida, you want to start your life, and all of a sudden you're going to hear up until 10 p.m. at night, which is what I understand. Oh boy, you're going to hear beep, 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 beep all night long as trucks are going to be backing in and out. So I'm not prepared to I don't have an attorney at this stage, but it's very important for us to understand it's not just a simple change and it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's going to completely crush our project, which we invested a lot of money, we spent a lot of time on it, we have the plans, and we've been submitted, we met with staff, and you can just see, could you imagine being on one of those between 170 and 220 units, and you're hearing till 10 o'clock, trucks backing up with the beep, beep, beep sign. That's not good. The fact that they can't start till 5 a.m., again, that's also not great. This is residential. So it's not so simple, and I appreciate the fact that it's great to just say, well, it's underlying and we can do this and it's never changed. But we need as much in this community, affordable apartments and homes, it's a combination of single family and multifamily, as much as we need warehouse spacing. So thank you very much. I'll be more prepared when we see the commission, but I really wanted to stand up today and let you know that we are 100% against this. This will completely damage our product.
Okay, thank you. I've got signed up to speak Mr. James Johnson.
Oh, of course.
Hello.
Good morning.
I have a property not far from this number one site here, whatever it is.
I'm sorry, could you just
acres.
please state your name for the record?
James Johnson.
Thank you, sir.
And I'd like to know, it shows on my paperwork, there's only one access to this property, and it's on 29th Street. That's 120 houses in there, which each house is going to have at least one car, maybe two. Where's all that traffic going? That's my question.
Well, we'll have staff answer that, or we'll have the applicant.
Okay.
All right, if that's your only concern?
Yes.
Yes, that will be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you. Another one signed up, Mr. Gobery?
I didn't
Marshall?
sign up. My name is Francisco Menendez, and I'm a resident there, too.
All right, just 1 minute, please. But is Mr. Gobery here? Oh, you spoke. Okay. No, you had your turn.
An encore.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Francisco Menendez, and I'm a property owner at the end of 29th Street, the far east end of that street, 29th Street East. My concern is that's a very narrow road. There's not even, we don't even have water service from the city. We don't have sewage service from the city. And my understanding was that that was going to be homes, residences. I didn't know it was going to be warehouses and trucks. So I have the same concern that the two prior speakers expressed. Also, 29th Street, you can barely fit two cars through it. It's an agricultural type road. And it's just, in my opinion, radical changes have to take place before that's even feasible. That's all I wanted to express. And I really came here today thinking that those were going to be houses, that the road was going to be expanded, and we were going to talk about bringing water and sewage to the end of 29th Street. But I see that we're not quite there yet.
Right.
But anyway, those are my concerns that I wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone like to make a further comment? Please come forward and state your name.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Floyd McDowell. I'm a resident on 29th Street, directly right in the middle of the Phase 1. And I own that property, live there, have for 21 years, and enjoy that. But I'm a little confused. I see the warehouses, where they're at and where they're located. I don't really have a problem with that because it doesn't affect any residential or anything. So that's all well. But what I'm wondering now is, are those going to be extended on down 29th Street, or what is going to go in this Phase 1? Is this going to be residential? Is this going to be commercial? Because that makes a big difference. I have no problems with residential. I believe in growth, but I think commercial would not be appropriate for this area. And as 29th Street, not only is it hard to get two cars down that street, if they were small cars, maybe, but two regular-sized cars aren't going to go there without taking the mirrors off of each other. So that is a problem. Water, sewer, that is a problem. If it's going to be brought in, where's it going to be brought in from? 29th Street East, where it goes into Ellington Gillette Road, is already a traffic problem during the day with all the several thousand homes being built just to the north of us there along Ellington Gillette Road. And that traffic is now starting to feed down Ellington Gillette Road, and it's hard to get in and out of our road. So is there any preparation for whatever's going to be going on there in the plan? I appreciate the time and the efforts going into all this project, and I appreciate you all's help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance in the audience that'd like to make a public comment? Seeing no one coming forward, I'm closing the public comment period. Staff, do you have any comments to make regarding some of the questions and concerns that were brought up?
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager. There were a few different questions about traffic circulation in the area. I'll use the map that's on the board. The properties that are before you today are just in for a comprehensive plan amendment, so they're seeking a new land use designation. That land use designation will work in tandem with a zoning classification that's already in place. My understanding is consistent with what the applicant represented, is that the property is properly zoned, but what you can do on a property in Manatee County is governed by a combination of land use and zoning for this particular district. And so this, in a way, this is going to become part of an expansion to an overall development lying in this area. And the reason that's relevant is because it won't be just this parcel accessed on its own. It'll be accessed through these adjacent parcels that are not before you today. The thoroughfare road connection is 51st. This is the area, this is basically some commercial highway interchange type development, gas stations and restaurants just off 301 down near the 301 and I-75 interchange. And 51st comes into the property and is more or less along a 49th Avenue alignment at that point, runs through this parcel, and is planned to come and cross and connect up to 29th. And from the connection at 29th, wind its way the rest of the way up to Mendoza Road. Mendoza, 29th, and 17th all connect to Ellington Gillette, so that's part of the traffic circulation for this area. The residents' concerns, and I don't know the exact location of where they all live, but I'm assuming that they live along these individual parcels on the north side of 29th in this area, perhaps to the west or maybe to the east. Some of these are businesses. But regardless, to use 29th to access this parcel or other large development in this area, we would be looking at 29th being brought up to closer to county standards. It might not be perfect because we're kind of retrofitting things in the area, but the idea would be to get two general purpose lanes to move through there. I do not know the utility plans for that area, so there were some questions about that. But the idea would be the 49th would come up and access the parcel from the south, depending on their overall trip generation and their need to have a second means of access. There may need to be some improvements for connections as well. So it is not a certainty that 29th will be used immediately, but over time it would be developed as a thoroughfare collector roadway that connects to 49th, which runs through these parcels that are, well, the northwest parcel that's under consideration and its neighbors to the south and the east. I think that covers it about as well as we can at a comprehensive planning stage. You know, some of this evolves as we go through site planning and our capital improvement programs.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Davis? Mr. Rutledge.
29 dead ends in I-75.
On the thoroughfare plan, I think there was some thought given at one time to building an overpass along the 29th alignment. But on our thoroughfare plan today, there is no overpass shown. It's just shown as a stub street. So in effect, it's ending wherever 49th lies on the parcels to the north and south. It just tees into it. Today, it's functions as a local road. It's just access to the residential development and small businesses that are located along it, but it will evolve with the developments as the residential to the west fills in and these parcels develop as well.
But the county doesn't have any particular plans to make this a thoroughfare and a cross-county access point. I mean, it's a dead end into the major.
That actually had two questions in it. Yes, it is. In fact, it is an adopted thoroughfare. 29th is a designated collector roadway on the county's comprehensive plan, but it is not planned to be an across-the-county thoroughfare. It is not 44th Avenue and Cortez
That's kind of
that extends all the way across the county. It doesn't even cross I-75, but it does provide some important connections between north-south roads on the west side of the interstate.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to understand. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Roth? I'm a little confused. I'm listening to the public that lives there telling me they think that parcel 1 is going to be residential real estate. We're not getting full revelation from Benderson. I'm making an assumption that it's going to be commercial. If it is, then there are some questions about the roadway that would be pertinent, and also about the memo listed from the school district. So could we get better understanding, or should we wait for the next hearing?
I'm not sure how far we can take it today and still stay within the confines of the comprehensive plan amendment, but you were told during the presentation that this was brought forward and put through the rapid response process as a value-added company. A value-added company means a business, and those types of businesses are evaluated based on capital investment in the county, whether or not they're an expansion of an existing business or bringing in a new business, and the number and wages associated with the jobs they bring in. And if they are positively contributing in enough of those categories, they are considered a value-added business. That typically means they will be some sort of research, office, industrial type uses that fit in those categories. So, by all appearances, it will be non-residential. It is the purpose for the rezoning. The comprehensive plan amendment, because with the comp plan amendment in place and the underlying zoning, it would be eligible for non-residential development. We'll learn more about the specifics as we go through the site plan process that follows the comp plan process if this is approved.
Mr. Rutledge. Mr. Clark, that was wonderful. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I wanted to ask Ms. Tusing. So, don't get that concerned look. It's going to be fun. So one of the things that I am aware of, and maybe you can, is that counties are struggling a bit with finding good industrial places for companies to come. People want to come to Florida. Amazon's a good example. You know, St. Petersburg or Pinellas County doesn't have industrial sites. And so I like consolidating industrial sites at certain areas. So in my mind, would you describe it as good urban planning to put industrial by industrial as opposed to finding other pods? I mean, this clearly has some residential surroundings that give people disappointment. However, being by the interstate and connected to another industrial pad, how would you describe that as a planning idea?
Well, the proposal is to mixed use, which allows for all types of uses. However, we're going to assume that it's not going to be a mixed use. That it's not going to be residential. The applicant can state more to that. As part of our review process, when we get to the general development plan, is that we look at the uses and we have buffer screening, those types of requirements that are necessary to be met, and that is what you would see at the zoning, or not the zoning stage, at the site plan approval stage. And those are the things that staff will look at. You know, we are aware, we know that Marshall's project is in here for review, the Our Lives, which is to the west, and how can we create to have both uses to be compatible with one another. And so those are the things that we will be looking at as we get to the site plan review. This, again, is the underlying foundation that we look at and what zonings are appropriate. It is already zoned plan development mixed use, which allows for industrial, commercial, and residential. So, perhaps, Mr. Mathis can better describe the proposal. In the meetings that we've been in, it has been a non-residential use being proposed for the site.
Ms. Toussaint, while you're still there, if, and this is a big if it's going to be, as one of these people was concerned about, is that if it is going to be warehousing, okay, but on the noise, 5 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, deliveries, etc. But there is an ordinance related to specific times when this can or cannot be done. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and those things would be looked at. I'm sure that Mr. Mathis and his companies that would come in would be aware of that. So you do have, yes, you have regulations, and the noise ordinance has timing, and then it's based on what is the adjacent uses to it.
Right.
And
And
so
then,
when
of
you
course,
can have operations.
the lighting follows and the buffers and all of that kind of thing follows in the future.
Yes,
on
and
that approval.
our lighting plan is very different than it used to be. You know, lighting doesn't spill over onto other lots like it used to. So, but those are the regulations we have in place, and those are the things that they would have to do when they come in for their permit to build.
Thank you. Any questions?
I had one
Yes.
other question. So I had the great fortune at a different time in my life to live very close to an interstate, and the sound and the veracity of traffic from transport trucks travels pretty far and is pretty loud. In fact, I live in Brayton Woods, close to Lakewood Ranch. I couldn't afford Lakewood Ranch, of course, but when I can still hear the interstate pretty far away. So my question a little bit is, do you think there's a big delta in sound coming off 75 in that distance if it was residential versus commercial? In other words, I think the real noise generator is not going to be a truck backing up into a loading dock. Maybe it will be, but I think it can be mitigated. But my real question is, isn't the sound more likely to be impactful from 75 than a warehouse unit? I mean,
I'm not a noise engineer, but you know, we do have we have projects along I-75 that include both residential and non-residential uses. And when they're residential, we require them to do a noise study, and then they build their homes based on those criteria. So they either put sound walls in to try to muffle the sound of the interstate.
But berms and
building
barriers,
material
concrete
types.
barriers are used all the time.
Pardon me?
But berms and concrete barriers are designed all the time around these areas that this doesn't particularly have, right?
No, the industrial use would not have it because it wouldn't be required to because it's not residential.
Right. Right. But there are techniques and skills to mitigate sounds and so forth. It's a little difficult because we don't know what we're talking about other than just the potential use. We seem to have some codes that are restricted.
Yes, I mean, again, this is like this is the framework, and it does allow multiple uses. And so you build on that, and then our land development code does contain very many regulations, and they have to meet those.
And as a point of order, Mr. Chair, when this comes back with some more detail, other concerns can be raised in a more detailed and more specific fashion. Is that correct?
Sure, because we don't know those details yet. Right. We're assuming things, but we always have a tendency to assume the negative or the worst.
Contrary.
Mr. Roth, did you have it? No. Does anyone have any further comments for staff? Ms. Toussaint, do you have any comments in closing?
No, I believe we've answered all of your questions.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, do you have further comments to make?
Hey, I appreciate it, Commissioners. I think Clark did a decent job at sort of explaining some details about the project and not going too far. I just want to be clear, because I'm not exactly sure where the speakers live, and again, listen, I'm here and we want to meet our neighbors and talk to them. We operate a park like this on 301. We back up to residences. Those residences are very old. There's a lot of acreage there. It was a quiet place. We've never had a complaint. Never had a complaint, maybe because we have a big building that separated them from 301 and we have the truck courts working in the right way, but we're always available to our neighbors, and I want them to know that so we can work on this. To the extent, I think we heard someone lives on the far east end of the street, that's not part of the comp plan request right now. It's only with respect to this parcel. In the future, when we do bring this GDP in, and it is going to be a commercial use, it is tied to a company, we're in the process of building a 100-foot county thoroughfare roadway into the site, and actually we have 120 feet reserved. Our current plans and what you're ultimately going to see is that jogs to the west because it makes a connection to the north with owners of land to the north of us that are developing that land. And so that roadway is going to separate these uses and parcels. That's going to, change the character of things, but it's also going to make that north connection. So those are the types of things that we want to show you with a GDP in the future. But since we're going to be back together hopefully soon, going over that, I just want to start to talk about that. In terms of the uses on the west of us, again, we're going to work with our neighbors. Every time I read about an Amazon facility getting built, I read 6 months later about an active adult housing project getting built right next door, because they rely on that workforce housing active adult employee pool, especially as these companies ramp up and down in e-commerce. They rely on that pool. I mean, we can look in Jacksonville, we can look in Orlando. That's what's going on. We own land where that's happening, where we're building and selling residential next to commercial like that. So I think there can be synergy there. We know that there are concerns to work through and details in the planning. We will, and we hope that you can support the recommendation of a mixed-use future land use so that the zoning underlying it can continue to be consistent and we can continue the build-out of this parcel consistent with the project we started. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, just a minute, please.
Yeah. There was a question on whether your existing project, the warehouses, are going down to 29th Street. Is that?
With respect to the 29th Street connection, the road will tee into 29th, but
not the connection, your current project?
Correct. Not our current project.
Your current project?
The current project under construction.
Yes, sir. The warehouses are going abut to 29th Street?
So I want to go back to a graphic here. If I could actually have that one back.
Tell them no.
Yeah. Well, the answer is no, but let's be clear here. This is an image basically of the GDP that's approved today. The road ends, it just dead ends that we're building. So we got to come back out by the Waffle House and go to 75. This next project with the GDP, we're going to continue that road north, and it'll make a connection across to the north.
Yeah,
because that's part of the thoroughfare plan.
I understand that. Yeah. But their question was whether the warehouses come up to 29th Street.
No, sir. Not right now.
There's a considerable setback?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further questions for the applicant? Mr. Rutledge?
Listen, I'm a big fan of the stuff you guys have done. I've always said that. But I'm also a fan of other people doing these other things. If you were me, would you feel comfortable saying that we're depending on you to be a good neighbor and to do the things that should and can be done? I mean, this is not new. This is not like it's never happened before. And I argue the point that consolidation of work and residence is a good thing in some fashion. It can be done. And there's other residents going around here that are much more significant than this. And I would just say, would you be comfortable voting for this with the expectation that the group would do everything within their reasons appropriate and within the contemporary thinking to make this an engaged program?
I'll give you a two-part response. I hope you would, because I think we've done a nice job and we're working on it. But you're going to get a bite at the apple here with the GDP and knowing the details, and we got to lay those out for you. And so that's really the place where we got to work through this. We knew our neighbors to the north are working on development. We met with them. We've talked it through. They've made changes to their project, and likewise. So we're going to work on the details, and there's time between now and then after this step is taken.
Have you met our neighbor?
A few minutes ago. A few minutes ago.
So it's as you said, and as we understand it, it is a two-step process right here. This is the first one where we get the overall idea of what you're trying to do. Mr. Davis spoke on the plans for the area, and now the second phase that will be coming in shortly will give us the details. We can really work it out and iron it out to specifically what is it going to be, look like, and action-wise.
That's exactly right.
Commissioners, any further questions for the applicant?
Booby wants to talk again.
No, I'll make a summarizing comment. So.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, any comments, suggestions?
I just want to say one comment is, first of all, I'm very sensitive to your comments. So understand we're constrained by what we're able to do and not able to do. This is why I have to sit by the attorney. So, but we hear you. okay? And I think the staff has heard you, and I think your neighbors heard you. So I think there is a mechanical process here that we kind of have to be compelled by. The other thing I'm very sensitive to is I think our economic development team is somebody that we have some confidence in. I have a lot of respect for them. I think they do a lot of hard work that's sometimes doesn't seem very fruitful. And to the extent that they're teamed up with one of our neighbors here to do something positive, I want to be supportive of that. And until I hear to the opposite that that's bad for us, I'm gonna be in support of this. So I take a lot of confidence in our staff here and our staff that we have throughout the county, and so I'm going to be disposed to be supportive of this until I see something negative.
And I think, just to follow up on the commissioner, I'm familiar with their projects on 301, and I understand your concerns. But I think most of your concerns were going to be addressed at the next phase when you do have a chance to look specifically at what's going to be done. And related to the ones that they have on 301, not too long ago, they came in and requested an expansion to that area. And none of the residents that are around them, and we do have residents that abut those, came in with any kind of issues or problems with it, which to us is good because that's the way it was told to us, that there would be no issues, and we're finding out that there aren't. And let's hope that is the same as Benderson moves forward, because they've got a big footprint in this county and a reputation to uphold. But I think it's the next phase that will hopefully make everyone who has a concern feel a little more at ease with what we're moving forward with.
Can I have 15?
No, I'm sorry. It's not a debate. I'm sorry. It's a hearing. It's not a debate. Thank you. I would suggest the two of you talk outside of this hearing.
You're getting half the story. That's the problem.
Okay. Commissioners, if there's no further comments, do we have a motion on item number 7, please?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yeah, I got to find it on my thing.
Yeah.
I recommend that based on the evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, technical support documents, findings, and the request to be consistent with the Community Planning Act, codified application portion of the Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statute, and the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, I move to recommend transmittal of the plan, PA 1811, Ordinance 18-39, as recommended by staff.
Do we have a second? Mr. Roth, second. Commissioners, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. That ends the items on the agenda. Before we end the meeting, I'd just like to make an overall comment. In August, I sent the Board of County Commissioners a letter stating that I was not going to be seeking restatement to the board. And so this happens to be my last meeting of a 9-year stint with everybody that's here. And with that in mind, I'd just like to thank my fellow commissioners for your interest, the intent, and the dedication you always bring forward. I really enjoy listening to everything that is said, and I appreciate that from all of you. To Wantana, thank you for the support. To Ms. Shank, who isn't here, I thank her. And as I look out here to this group, both Margaret and Tom have been here, I think, my entire tenure here. We've been looking at each other's faces. I think I've aged more than the two of you. And to the rest of the staff, Mr. Davis and the group, thank you for the support you've always given month after month. Sometimes when I've asked the same question, but sometimes the same question was, I knew the answer, but I just wanted some of the people in the audience to be able to hear it because I knew coming from staff, it just sounded a little better. So overall, thank you. I've had a great run. It's been educating, and take care and bless all of you. Yes.
I'd like to thank you for being an excellent wingman. And hopefully you'll have time to enjoy your retirement more so now that you have this obligation released.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've
Please,
been good.
please close the meeting.
Oh, okay. It is 10:15, and I close the meeting of the 13th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of the 11th.
Thank you.
All right.
We need to talk to Jim and get out of there.